Good evening, one and all. We welcome you all to the International Conference on Psychology, Counseling, Behavioral Sciences, Social Sciences, Health, Well-being, and Sustainable Development 2023, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 75 years of independence, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2015 to 2030, as part of awareness and campaigns, and World Health Month 2023, and also commemorating India's G20 presidency and Psychology Day at UN and Psychology Week celebrations in collaboration with Sri Holistic Health Foundation India, Sri Research Institute Center for Art, Sciences and Wellbeing, and all other collaborators. So before we start our sessions, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
Kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhana sampadah shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhana sampadah shatru buddhi vinashaya deepajyotirnamostute deepajyotirnamostute shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhana sampadah Shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhana sampadah.
With the blessings of Almighty, we shall continue with today's session. So in the first session, we'll look at emerging trends in psychology across the world. As per APA in 2023, it observes trend accelerating along with other major changes to the field of psychology. Psychologists are increasingly being called on the to help solve some of the greatest challenges we face as a society. So these include, but are not limited to, scientists reaching a wider audience. Driven by a sense of purpose, psychologists are finding new ways to get research and clinical advice to those who need it. Psychologists take aim at misinformation. Psychologists are on a mission to fight conspiracy theories and other forms of disinformation and misinformation with science-backed methods. Psychological research becomes more inclusive as psychologists are challenging traditional thinking about their research, including how it conducted and how it concludes. And EDI roles also expanded. The world is looking for leadership around equity, diversity, and inclusion, and psychologists are stepping up. And workers' well-being is in demand. Attitudes about employees' mental health have dramatically shifted, and psychologists are leading the charge to help business prioritize employee well-being. Efforts to improve children's mental health increases. Research is focused on child and teen mental health, exploring why they are struggling and what can be done to help them. Partnership accelerate progress. Psychologists are joining forces with other professionals to tackle big societal problems from childhood mental health to police violence. Suicide prevention gets a new lifeline. Psychologists remain on the forefront of suicide prevention, serving as critical first responders and training non-psychologists to help meet the need. And some faculty exit academia, with students feeling overwhelmed and faculty feeling unsupported and overworked. Some psychologists are abandoning academia and leaving the institutions and universities. Venture capitalists shift their focus, and new startups business are venturing into the behavioral sciences and mental health field because the insurance has stepped in, and now there is a huge prospectus for financial investment as well as financial potential in the mental health market. New funding is focusing on mental health apps for children and teens, as well as platforms that incorporate coaching and artificial intelligence. Psychologists rebrand the field. Psychologists are expanding the one-to-one therapy approach to strengthen psychological health across entire populations. These are the most top trending and the greatest changes that has been seen in 2023 by American Psychological Association, which is more or less the pattern is to be similar because most of the countries follow APA. So let's look at each of the trends one by one. A little more detail. Researchers are using technology to communicate psychological science to a wider audience. Driven by a sense of purpose, psychologists are finding new ways to get research and clinical advice to those who need it. Communicating psychological science to the public is vital, and is increasing number of psychologists are reaching beyond their patient base, academic circles, research labs, and other traditional workplaces to broaden their impact. Psychologists are hungry for this immediacy to deliver psychology and psychological research to the public on their own and often during their personal time. Some workplaces or professions may encourage this, while others have yet to understand the value of supporting staff in psychology to immediately improve people's lives. It is very unlikely that people beyond those who publish their work in a scientific journal will read psychology research, said psychologist Jonathan Y, PhD, who studies educational policy through the lens of psychology at the University of Arkansas and is a science communicator. It's crucial, therefore, to write about this academic work in an easy to understand way. In recent years, increasing numbers of psychologists have pushed for more science communication training, support, and permission within the field of psychology. This includes psychologists taking to the social media to share their clinical advice and scientific findings with a broader audience. There has been an uptick in psychology podcasts, with hosts finding new and innovative ways to pull listeners in and provide them with new and valuable information. A growing interest in social media, with the social media platforms from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok, there are a number of ways and more ways than ever to communicate with the public. As of 2021, 72% of the US adults use social media. That's an increase from half of all adults who used social media in 2011. So according to the Pew Research Center. So scientists are also embracing more social media in their professional lives. During the pandemic, especially, many scientists quickly discovered that information could be disseminated more efficiently and to far broader audience than it could be in scientific journals. Part of this push to use social media may come from the significant and startling gap between citizens and scientists' opinions on the key scientific topics, as was highlighted in another Pew Research Center survey. And one of the gifts of social media is that it can help us access hard to reach audiences, said Regina Coep, PhD, a clinical psychologist based in Atlanta, Georgia, who specializes in working with aging adults and their families and uses social media platforms like LinkedIn to share her work. It helps to break down access barriers to mental health care. It helps to improve equity in care so that the public mental health information can be shared through a cultural lens, not only through a white ivory tower research lens. However, not all psychologists have been taught how to communicate with the public in a direct or observing way. Inger Mewburn, PhD, Director of Research and Training at Australian National University, wrote in a blog post titled Why Academic Writing Sucks and How We Can Fix It, that academic writing as a genre is ritualized, a peculiar, archaic, and does almost as much to hide knowledge as it does not share it. Most of the time, the type of writing strangles public engagement with the material. If we are not clear and engaging, then editors and the general public simply won't read us. Why? And David Miller, PhD, a psychologist and a senior researcher at the American Institutes for Research, wrote an article for The Conversation. The first step is improving academic writing is to learn to reduce the jargon academics use and express concepts clearly, and this has forced us to distill our thinking to its absolute core. Luckily, Coep has noticed an increasing number of psychologists participating in this work. Many psychologists are actually more and more curious about this now. She said, I've been invited to do some tasks on things like social media ethics and talks on how to ensure as psychologists that we balance our responsibility in the field and also to our clients. This includes clinical psychologists like Julie Smith, PhD, who specializes in anxiety and depression and has taken to TikTok to reach a broader audience. Depression is not always obvious, she said in a TikTok video. Sometimes it's invisible. Even if people can't see your pain, they can't understand it. The pain is still real. Jacqueline A. Segal, PhD, a social psychologist at San Diego State University, who researches eating disorders, body image, and social attitudes, has more than 45,000 followers on Twitter. Through this platform, she can share more valuable insights into her scientific work and personal experiences. My experience in Twitter for anorexia is the driving force behind my research. Many friends from the treatment are still in the revolving door of ED treatment, and some have died, she wrote in a tweet. We must take these conditions seriously and help to improve treatment options for those suffering. So more and more psychologists have also noticed that communicating with public through social media is crucial in breaking down stereotypes about what typical psychologists look like. Many people still think of psychologists as older white men with beards, and this needs to change, he added. In a world where the majority of the people are using social media and accessing health and mental health information through the internet and social media, I might invite psychologists to think about what's our role is. Said Kyo, as we psychologists going to be part of that conversation, are we going to keep ourselves out of it, or is our absence in these spaces helpful? I don't think it is. So the rise of psychology podcast, the social media isn't the only way. Only way psychologists have been reaching are reaching a wider audience. Podcasts are also emerging a popular way to disseminate scientific information. And also clinical information, and more people nationwide are turning in. In fact, back in 2006, only 22% of the adult population in United States was aware of the podcast, according to Statistica. By 2021, 78% of the adults listen to podcasts, and it's estimated that podcast listeners will surpass 160 million in 2023. So podcasts that discuss topics related to science seem to scratch a particular itch for listeners. Researchers found that from 2010 to 2018, the number of science podcasts available on the topics like biology, chemistry, and physics grew exponentially, with 65% of these series hosted by a scientist and 77% targeted to public audiences. This work is also being done by clinical psychologist Jason Loma, PhD, hosts the Research Matters podcast, in which he interviews leading researchers in psychology and other social sciences to understand what they do that makes them productive. Psychotherapist Esther Perel, PhD, started a podcast called Where Should We Begin? That attracts tens of thousands of listeners. In each episode, Perel counsels real couple as they reveal intimate and personal details. This will definitely get listeners to tune in, but there are plenty of psychologists who are creating podcasts that aren't so stirring and action-packed, but all still reaching wide audiences. Kyo, for example, had a podcast called Psychology of Aging that shares insights every other week on mental health and aging, dementia, caregiving, and end of the life. This work became very pertinent during the pandemic because older adults are more likely to get sick from COVID-19 and require hospitalization and intensive care. Since the start of the pandemic, more than 2 lakh residents and staff in long-term care facilities have died from the virus, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation article. So long-term care communities were really struggling, and families with loved ones in these facilities were really struggling, said Coer. Another example of someone doing this work is Joy Haddon Bradford, PhD, a psychologist in Atlanta who created Therapy for Black Girls, an online space dedicated to encouraging the mental wellness of Black women and girls. In addition to a Twitter account with a following of 40,500 people and a blog, Bradford hosts a popular mental health podcast that focuses on making mental health topics more relevant and accessible for Black women. Each week, Bradford focuses on a new mental health topic, from Black women in academia to myths about sex, She introduces each episode as a weekly conversation about mental health, personal development, and all the small decisions we can make to become the best possible versions of ourselves. So, making a podcast or engaging with the public through social media takes a significant amount of time and often must be done between busy research, teaching, or clinical schedules. But more and more psychologists seem to be discovering the benefit of this work, said Kyo. Why hopes to see even more psychologists engaging in this work in the years to come. There is still some hesitancy when it comes to writing or talking about science to the public. He said, but psychology as a field has a long history of encouraging researchers to disseminate their findings. This work will continue to greatly benefit the broader public and psychologists and scientists themselves. We see the pandemic of publishing that is happening since COVID-19. And of course, it was there earlier, but now because of more and more online events, there is a huge competition. Each nation is competing with each other, especially developed and developing nations, to publish more and more research articles, books, and research work. So this kind of competition, a rat race among these nations, are also a counterproductive at times, because in the very first place, reading these papers is a big question again. So who are going to read this? The common man wouldn't go, the common woman for that matter wouldn't go and read all these jargon. That is what we mentioned. That's why, in fact, in a way, we can say a lot of trash is getting published, where we have, our ancient scriptures, which has ancient knowledge, still they are only, we are not reading. And who is going to read all these paper presentations or publications, and which doesn't have any true reliability or validity, in fact, because they are of very small sample and they cannot be even generalized. Both and all are based on the true or pure, sciences. And again, there are a lot of limitations within the research, and so a lot of issues are there where, and moreover, everyone is highly biased, judgmental, prejudiced, and very subjective in nature. So they have their own conclusions. So this is what the major, hurdle. And you do heaps of publications. Now, where is the time? Everyone wants to come and speak. Everyone wants to come and present. Everyone wants to publish. But who is the one who is going to read? Who is the one who is going to listen? Who is the one who is going to take it forward? So that, unless and until there is someone to take it forward, your research goes into the drain. That is what happening today. Even the great, that's why, we are not realizing today, when we don't respect our elders, our, previous generations, and we don't keep reading, then who will read our thing? And our research is not even worth reading, right? So these are the challenges. We will discuss on this also. What is the odd side? There are a lot of even media reports also, how, these academicians are paying for the predatory research, and everyone, in a race, and they are paying, wherever. Now, that's why many conferences are being organized, and more predatory journals are coming up, which just take money and publish and forget about the quality. They are more focused on quantity. So want everything to be published. You write anything and that should be published somewhere and elsewhere. Quality, no one is bothered. In fact, the quality presentations and publications are suffering because even in academia, because of highly corrupted academicians also at certain levels of management, they are also promoting the quantity rather than quality. So that's where again the quality suffers. So of course, these are various things that are there. This is the dark side of the academia, where this publishing pandemic is being promoted for various vested interests. We'll not get into that. That's a different thing because our focus is on trends today. So this is also one trend among the other trends we are discussing. So all these are very important for us to ensure that we are trying to understand these trends, and accordingly we need to move forward. And coming to next trend, psychologists are taking aim at misinformation with these powerful strategies. Conspiracy theories and other forms of disinformation and misinformation continue to worm their way into the American psyche and even other psyche across the world. Psychologists are on a mission to fight them with these science-backed methods. Psychologists are ramping up efforts to fight the many-headed hydra of misinformation and drawing on decades of psychological research to help people think more soundly when presented with information telling them that hurricanes are a scam perpetrated by climate change activities, or that COVID-19 vaccines can make you sick with the COVID virus. So there are, of course, there are certain truth in that also. There are a lot of side effects that has caused due to COVID-19 vaccination. But better than dying, it is good to suffer with some side effects. That is the best, the other side of, living. So though we know that, instead of dying, we can live with some diseases or disorders, that's fine. At least you will not die now, you will still live. So that is a kind of concept we are going ahead. So though majority of the cases, though the side effects are minimal, but again, it depends from, a person to person and depends on various factors. But still, there is a certain amount of truth, but not always. And the extent of, truth or the extent of false information is also to be considered in reality. Because in the context where saving lives is the priority, of course, so majority of the lives can be saved even at the cost of some diseases or disorders or side effects. So psychologists' efforts included to expose these and more subtle fabrications are massive online campaigns that teach people how to spot and analyze misinformation, research aimed at finding the most effective anti-misinformation strategies, and efforts to teach kids critical thinking skills so that they are equipped to fend off sketchy information. We have been pushing, said University of Cambridge professor Sander van der Linden, PhD, a social psychologist who is running some of the world's largest anti-misinformation interventions. and we seem to have some momentum now to change things. He said, so the work is important for obvious reasons as well as more indirect ones. Van der Linden added, not only can misinformation lead to direct harm, for example, to people's physical health or to election outcomes, he said, but it can also erode our trust in each other, in society, in our institutions. There is a strong and growing evidence for why people believe misinformation and resist correcting those views. Reasons include confirmation bias, seeking out information that confirms prior beliefs, and motivated reasoning, that is, reasoning towards a desired conclusion rather than an accurate one, explained University of Southern California professor and educational psychologist Gail M. Sintra, PhD, co-author with Barbara K. Hoofer, PhD of Science Denial, Why It Happens and What to Do About It, which was published in Oxford by Oxford University Press, 2021. Sinatra also chaired an APA task force on climate change, whose 2022 report, Addressing the Climate Crisis, an action plan for psychologists, suggests multiple ways that psychologists can help to educate the public in the area dogged by misinformation. Research also finds that people believe misinformation because it fits easily into their identity or the worldview. Sinatra added, if you are part of the vaccine hesitant community, you might go along with these or those views because you don't have the time, interest, or ability to evaluate vaccine safety directly. She said, so just look at your Facebook group and see what they say. Psychologists also know a great deal about emotional motivators that fuel beliefs in fake news or conspiracy theories, including fear and anger, she noted. In addition, studies show that when people encounter fake news, when they are in the state of heightened emotions, whether it may be positive emotions or negative emotions, they are more likely to believe the less able to discern fake from real news. As per Martel C. et al., Cognitive Research Principles and Implications, which was published in Volume 5, 2020. In a research summary on the topic, University of Western Australia, cognitive psychologist Ulrich K.H. Ecker, PhD, and colleagues also point out to studies showing when people see the same false information multiple times, a phenomenon amplified by social media, the information becomes lodged in and throughout memory and becomes difficult to unseat even when the new information is presented. So researchers call this phenomenon as the illusionary truth effect. National Reviews, as per National Reviews, Volume 1, 2022. This is how, even many now, the propaganda or the advertisements, you see, they keep repeating n number of times so that you tend to believe that it is truth. Still, other studies find that some people are more susceptible to misinformation than others. These include frequent users of social media, those who are less educated, people less likely to employ reflective thinking and analytical reasoning, and people on the political extremes especially, but not limited to those on extreme right. So these and other related findings are informing a wealth of new research and interventions in this area. Starting in fall 2022, a large group of researchers began testing 8 anti-misinformation interventions with 30,000 US adults to ascertain which are most effective and why. Strategies they are investigating include pre-bunking, inoculating people against the misinformation virus in the first place, and debunking, providing ways to correct misinformation once people have consumed it, as well as accuracy nudges, social norms, interventions, warning labels, and other approaches. Each participant in the study is assigned to one of the interventions or to a no intervention control. The project headed by cognitive psychologist Lisa Fazio, PhD of Vanderbilt University, David G. Rand, PhD of MIT, and Stephen Lewandowski, PhD of the University of Bristol in Bristol, England, has some serious research chops behind it. 8 intervention leads from 3 countries are overseeing each intervention and deciding how it should be implemented, while additional teams will choose the stimuli to be tested. And then program, gather, and analyze data, supporting the effect of our more than 80 misinformation experts who help decide which interventions to test and who will provide feedback as the project continues. The project is funded by the Social Science Research Council, Mercury's project, a global consortium of researchers dedicated to countering misinformation. Besides seeing how each intervention fares in general, the researchers plan additional studies to see which interventions are more effective or less effective with different demographic groups, and Fazio noted. So the project also includes 2 major activities. One will test the effectiveness of the most successful intervention on YouTube, and the second is a toolkit that will highlight the strength and weakness of each approach so that social media platforms and civil society groups can choose the approaches that best fit their mission and resources. Whether that's a non-profit organization focused on increasing youth voting or a website encouraging people to get COVID-19 vaccine, Fazio explained. In another recent effort, Van der Linden and colleagues have successfully tested a pre-bunking intervention that they hope to scale up in a big way. They partnered with Google to place a short, fun animated videos on YouTube that educate users to spot and analyze common misinformation techniques, such as spouting deliberate strategies using characters from popular television shows and films like Family Guy and Star Wars and others. In an article in Science Advances, volume number 38, number 34, 2022, University of Cambridge social psychologist John Rosenbeek, PhD, Van der Linden, and colleagues shared results involving 6,464 participants randomized to one of the videos or a neutral control video, and 22,632 online users who saw one of these 2 videos in actual YouTube ad campaign. Those who watched the experimental videos were still significantly better able to recognize manipulation techniques to discern trustworthy from untrustworthy. Eventually, the team hopes to embed these videos into actual ad spaces on YouTube, said Van der Linden. The findings provide proof of concept that the principle of psychological inoculation can readily be scaled across hundreds of millions of users worldwide. He said, Google seems to agree In August, Google's Jigsaw platform rolled out a campaign in Poland, Slovakia, and Czech Republic to fight misinformation about Ukrainian refugees using the Cambridge Teams methodology. Other psychologists are taking aim at a root cause of people's difficulty in fighting misinformation. A lack of sufficient education in science and critical thinking is the first place. The whole process of science has to be taught together with a focus on what is evidence, how science knows, what it knows, and why it doesn't know. What it doesn't know, Sinatra commented. So in one such effort, educational psychologist Doug Lombardi, PhD, who heads the Science Learning Research Group at the University of Maryland in College Park, Maryland, launched a 4-year science education project in September 2022, with investigations at Maryland and 5 other sites, including Sinatra at USC and investigators at Temple University, the University of North Georgia, TERC, formerly known as the Technical Education Research Center, and the Planetary Science Institute, funded by the National Science Foundation. It is the third phase of the project that is examining aspects of an instructional strategy called the Model Evidence Link, MEL diagram, which is designed to promote students' ability to critically evaluate The team will also work with some 100 teachers and 1,000 students in the middle and high schools in Philadelphia and Georgia to help students learn a critical evaluation method called lateral reading. Instead of opening a single science or social studies article on the computer desktop and reading down the page, students open additional windows and read the other material related to the piece that probes the credibility of the article's author and sources, the soundness of this science promulgated in the article, and whether other reputable scientific organizations agree with the information. For example, along with the way the team will test the impact of the methodology on students' understanding of the fundamental science, social, and civic phenomena underlying the material they are hearing about. In another educational effort, Western Kentucky University Associate Professor Jenny Riedifer, PhD, uses debunking strategies to help preserve teachers in her educational psychology classes, dismantle discredited beliefs about learning and embrace more empirically supporting learning strategies. Many future teachers entered her classroom believing that everyone has a learning style that suits them best. For example, auditory, kinesthetic, or visual. But research has resoundingly shown that this is not the case, that people learn best using a combination of approaches that best fit the context of material being taught, which is In an article in Psychology, Learning and Teaching, in volume 18, number 3, 2019, Stephen R. Winger, PhD, Redifair and colleagues found that 80% of the main 20 educator preparatory books discuss the learning styles theory. Half defined is a preference or approach, while the half defined is as a way of individual. To combat these beliefs, Redifer uses strategies in which she replaces the misinformation with new researchers-backed information and delivers it in a manner that doesn't threaten or attacks unnecessary students, research scholars, or faculty. Otherwise, identify yourself. So to combat these beliefs, the good news is that we can learn in any style, she tells students. So you don't have to worry about giving other students or your students a learning style inventory or having separate lessons for auditory and visual learners. Students catch on and are better equipped to teach their own students in future, she said. Because the field is hot, many other researchers are tackling pieces of the misinformation puzzle as well. Be just one example of the work taking place. Faizo and colleagues recently studied an aspect of illusionary truth, examining in a real world as just one example of the work taking place. Fazio and colleagues recently studied an aspect of illusionary truth effect, examining in a real world context how frequently a messaging affects the strength of the people and mind. While others are examining more closely who is more likely to believe misinformation and why, in a paper presented 2022 APA Annual Convention and now under review. Victoria Johnson, a doctoral student working with Panayakota, Tenju, PhD at the University of Liberals who believe system included, or liberals whose belief systems included a higher need for evidence, tend to trust scientific sources the most. The liberal media sources, seconds, and conservative media least, but liberals who had less of the need for evidence had the same level of trust in all three sources, like food. So the results also show that vaccine mistrust is not a conservative only issue. Johnson said, there are definitely liberals who aren't considering science above all other sources. As well, such findings suggested the need for them to better understand and reciprocate and convey my message. Because of the misinformation, many potential harmful effects, psychologists need to keep addressing it from multiple angles. Fazio added, misinformation is really multifaceted problem, she said. But if we make lots of similar changes, changes by the social media platforms, changes to policies, changes to individual behaviors, changes to education, changes to media environment, and there is a room for the progress. Now, the another trend is the push for more equitable research is changing the field. Psychologists are challenging traditional thinking about their research, including how it is conducted and what it concludes or who it concludes. Now, psychologists are challenging traditional thinking about research, re-evaluating how research terms are defined, how research is conducted, who is doing it, and what kind of research are rewarded. This includes making sure one's research questions consider historically marginalized groups and entire human experience, along with keeping in mind who is conducting the research and how that impacts study bias. Psychology journals are also undergoing incremental changes. Specifically, more and more publications are noticing the need for diversity, equity, and inclusion in their scientific content that are taking steps to remedy decades of deeply racist and prejudiced practices that leave out key voices. The field is also re-evaluating how it views qualitative research. long considered to be less rigorous or robust about the quantitative research. Historically, quantitative research with its measurable and empirical data has been thought of as more vital to be in the field than qualitative research. Yet, this methodological approach can in fact be myopic and harm marginalized populations. I truly believe that the qualitative data can provide insight that qualitative simply cannot, said Lucy Arnello, PhD and educational psychologist at Texas Tech University. Arnello has written papers about qualitative research and pointed to the fact that quantitative research trends to maintain the status quo, thwart critiquing, and further underscore misconceptions of the deficits in marginalized population. With reference to Education Series, Volume 12, Number 2, 2022. In order to make transformational change, people need to hear the story. They need to connect on a human emotion type of level that can only be conveyed via qualitative data, Arnello said. With regard to all these changes, there are still many challenging conversations to be had. But when it comes to how we think about psychology research, we are moving in the right direction, said Mitch Princeton, PhD, Chief Science Officer at APA. We are starting to make some efforts to diversify our science and think differently about the way to conduct science. So thus, a push for more inclusive research, as psychology has a long history of being led primarily by white men and including mainly white study participants. A 2010 analysis of articles published in 6 of the field's leading journals showed that 95% of all samples came from what authors called white societies: Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. As per Henry J. et al., Behavioral and Brain Sciences, Volume 33, Number 2 and 3, 2010. This trend has continued throughout the years. An analysis of 26,000 empirical articles on cognitive, developmental, and social psychology published from 1974 to 2018 found that questions of race tend to be largely forgotten, and most journal publishers are white. Additionally, the studies that do take race into consideration are usually written by white scientists and employ few participants of color. As per Roberts S.O. et al., Perspectives on Psychological Science, Volume 15, Number 6, 2020. However, psychologists are starting to embrace the need for change when it comes to how research is planned and conducted, according to the Mia Smith Bynum, PhD, Senior Director for Science Equity, Diversity and Inclusion at APA. Specifically, psychologists with privileged identities are starting to have more uncomfortable yet necessary conversations about how they can help change the harmful research practices that leave out a diverse range of people. I mentored 2 white men, and they were very forthright on wanting me to be better and having honest and thoughtful conversations about race. Smith Bynum said, "This gives me hope that I didn't really see these happening in the first 10 or so years of my career. People are now looking for the content, skills, and guidance on how to do better." Rebecca Gaines, a PhD candidate in counseling psychology at the University of Denver, has also observed that more psychologists who are entering the field are talking about the need for intersectionality and inclusivity in their research. They are asking harder questions at the beginning of their research projects. Gaines said, including what groups of people have been historically left out of this type of research. What can we do early on to make sure they are included so that the research is more generalized and can benefit a larger group of people? Like psychologists and their study participants, the realm of publishing of psychology journals has long been a homogeneous and closed-minded process. To help remedy this, APA publishing program is implementing equity, diversity, and inclusion initiative. This framework, which was proposed in 2018, advocates for equitable content that is representative of all people and all communities. The Asian American Journal of Psychology is one of the publications taking charge in this regard. Research on Asian American populations is so overlooked in many other areas of psychology, said June Kim, PhD, who edits the journal at AJP. Researchers don't have to justify why it is important to study the psychological process of a specific racial or minoritized group. We take it as a matter of course that research about ancient Americans So they say that we take it as a matter of course that research about Asian Americans is important. So this work, however, doesn't mean publishing studies that simply compare people of color and white people. We don't expect researchers to treat the psychological process of Asian Americans in contrast to other groups, said Kim. That is, expecting a comparison of Asian Americans versus white Americans or something like that, where the psychological process of Asian Americans exists in contrast to psychological process of other groups. Instead, Kim and her colleagues have dedicated specific issues to focus readers' attention on Asian American science. Special issues have been a way to spotlight about specific subfields within Asian American psychology to provide additional focus and attention to that specified subfield. She said, these include the issues, the growth of Filipino versus American psychology, and promoting health and well-being in forcibly displaced Asian populations. Additionally, in an effort to track diversity in science publications, more than 50 publishers representing 15,000 journals across the globe plan to ask a scientist a list of questions about their race, ethnicity, and gender, according to an article written this year in Nature magazine. By gathering data on journals' contributors, the hope is that publications can better grasp where they currently stand in regard to the diversity and what vital work still needs to be done. Again, more focus on this diversity can also at times compromise. Instead, more based on the quality has to be implemented. Otherwise, this can also take a wrong turn, like, the reservations in India, where the merit doesn't get an opportunity and they migrate to other countries, making the brain drain. And see, that's why, most of the countries, NASA and other developed countries have majority of Indians as scientists researchers, doctors who are, a great loss for the nation. If you just go by the reservations, the entire country suffers. The person who is getting the highest merit will not get an opportunity, and the person who doesn't have a merit or doesn't have the quality will get the opportunity. And again, the nation and the planet suffers. So this reservation, to an extent, is productive, but this excess of reservation can be counterproductive. That is what we are seeing even in India because of we keep blaming governments, we keep blaming systems, because most of the recruitment happens on reservation. And most of the merit doesn't find a place, either in universities, either in organizations. Now, how you can expect equality when the recruitment is happening on a reservation basis? The substandard quality is getting an opportunity, and that substandard quality is what providing you services. Again, that is what you are getting. So definitely the outcome will also be substandard. Now, what can be done here? There is a lot of psychological interventions that are created. See, of course, there is also an equal need, equal, urgency and the importance of promoting the backward, classes. Of course, there is no backwardness in saying about a class, because when everyone has equal opportunity, when everyone is given opportunity, they have to strive. It's not that, one generation can be always promoted and supported, but it not generations together. Today, India, the greatest disadvantage of the reservation system is reservations was introduced long back in the constitution, but still after 70 years, after 7 generations also, these reservations continue to exist. That is the greatest, disaster for the nation, because, still 7 generations are getting reservations and they are getting, utilizing these resources without any quality. And what can you expect? 7 generations are with substandard quality, and what you can expect from the system. So almost all the systems are filled with, substandard quality. And okay, to that extent, they have got an opportunity, but are they improving? Still, why reservations are there? Because they do not have that intention to improve. Because once they improve, the reservations they are having, they will lose their reservations. So again, they need to struggle, compete. So that's why they are also not improving. So this is not my statement. This is what research says. Because initially, when Ambedkar has proposed the reservations, it was initially for 10 years. After that, it was supposed to be removed, because it was the support for only just one generation, so that they can also become inclusive of the society and they can take it forward. But that didn't happen. Even today, after 7 decades, this year, the last year, we are on almost the 8th decade. We have almost completed 76 years, and we are in the 76th year of independence. Even after that, the reservations are still continuing, even beyond 65 years. What does that mean? So even after 75 years, the community still remains backward. Why? What are the reasons of being still backward? What are the reasons still being, underdeveloped? So this also has to be studied by the psychologists and need to come up with a report. Even there are a lot of research studies also conducted, and it has proved that, they don't want to develop because they will lose reservations. And again, they have to compete with everyone. So the reservations are causing many people, especially with quality and merit, to lose their opportunities, and they are leaving the country and it is a huge loss to the nation. And again, other countries are benefiting from that, and our nation is suffering because of these reservations. So how we are going to justify this? So this has to be studied in a proper perspective. We are not against any reservations, but at the same time, what is the outcome of providing reservations? Whether there is a quality that is coming out of it over a generation or over 2 generations or 3 generations. Now it is more than 7 generations almost. Now, what is the outcome? There should be a research that needs to be taken that will decide whether these reservations are productive or counterproductive for the development of the reserve. So definitely many research has said that it is counterproductive, not productive to them as well as the nation, because the merit is not getting opportunity. Meritorious students are not getting opportunities. They are not getting seats, and the meritorious, and outstanding students and the scholars are not getting opportunities again in doctoral programs and other postdoctoral programs because of the reservation. Again, they are not getting opportunity in the recruitment because again, the quota is there. So what we are promoting? We are promoting substandard quality in the name of reservations, or we are promoting merit. So that has to be seen in a different perspective. So we are not against reservations. Yes, reservations have to be provided. There are many people, handicapped are there, ex-servicemen are there. So, and still today, there are many backward classes are there where the first generation, at least not even a single generation has, got the opportunity to study, to work, and to, reach to a certain level in the society. So we strongly advocate such communities, such people, such families needs to be provided reservation, but not to everyone who just claim. And by doing this, we are only promoting the substandard quality, and the outcome is also substandard. That is where nation is suffering today. The right persons are not getting reservation, and the persons who are enjoying the reservation are not producing a quality products and services. So this is even here also, the research says, the more preference to whites. So that is why we are saying even the diversity. Here India is no similar to any country. India has so many religions, so many castes, so many colors, white, brown, black, what all colors. See, even in US, there is a tussle, a war between whites and blacks, and also Asian Americans, African Americans, and other Americans. See how much racism is existing. And here, in some countries, they still have a huge cry that they are not getting opportunities, they are not getting. This is only because of lack of understanding. We are all like a frog in wells. We just assume that the well in which we are is the only world, and we don't have the completely holistic view of the world that is limiting us to understand what world is, and still clinging to these reservations and other things. See, so we should get away the reservations as soon as possible. Otherwise, the nation will continue to suffer. The reservation should be purely applicable to those who really need the support, but not those who just belong to certain caste or certain religion or certain sect. That should be purely given away. Reservation should be provided to one who really deserves it, to the families who have never got an opportunity to be an inclusion into the society. They should be given. We strongly support them. For them, reservations must be provided, but not for those who take reservations and do nothing about it. So this also has to be studied. Even when we see in the West or East, these kind of social evils, even we can see reservation as a social evil also, because the merit is getting injustice, because they are not getting opportunities. That is a great injustice to the merit that is happening. Everyone is equally capable. When we see everyone as equal potential, we were discussing yesterday, all human beings are equal. Then why these reservations? Reservations are a form of discrimination, are a form of, a kind of discrimination, a form of discrimination, differentiation that is happening in the name of reservations. And there is also corruption that happens, the merit doesn't get, and those who do not even pass get the qualified marks because of the reservation, get the opportunity to go to further studies and get an employment. Now, what kind of injustice we are doing when we say all people are equal? This is a great injustice that is happening to the society. So reservations should be strictly banned or removed, and should be only made to them, to those who really need it. Where a generation, a family that has never has gone to school, definitely that family should get 100% reservation, and their children should be, provided with equal opportunities, irrespective of their, background, or for that matter, even for the merit also, they should be provided opportunity to get admission into the school or get an opportunity to get employed, because they are the first generations and we need to promote. Then from then onwards, when they get the opportunity, they will utilize it and they will make their children educated and employed, and or take up self-employment. This is what the true concept of reservation is, but it is highly abused and highly corrupted system. That is why, the brain drain is happening. The quality doesn't come because of the substandard quality everywhere because of these reservations. So the purpose, the purpose with which these reservations are brought by our great Dr. Ambedkar ji has been highly misused and abused. And today, even if if he could have been alive, he himself could have, cancelled or removed this reservation system, because at the initial stage itself, he has proposed it only for 10 years, 1 decade, that is for 1 generation. But due to this political, these politics, these divide and rule, and they want this vote bank politics, still these reservations continues promoting the substandards, and definitely the outcome is the substandard. So we need to rethink about these systems, social evils prevailing in the society, where the merit is not getting opportunity. It's not wrong you give reservations, but there should be a cut-off reservations. Now reservations are already crossed 75%. That means 75% of the quality is substandard, and we are getting only 25% of the quality, merit quality. Now, how do you expect that you will get quality services anywhere in any field? You will only get substandard qualities. You will always complain government is not working, administrative section is not working, because they are all filled with these reservation categories. They don't have quality, they don't have merit, they don't know anything. They just sit there, they occupy the positions, and they do nothing. And how country will improve? Now you yourself answer, you yourself try to understand that what is happening in the name of reservations. Even not only here in India, only India has that kind of reservations and no other country has such. Of course, every country has certain provisions. Provisions are always there. It's better than reservations. Reservation is a pure exploitation of other, that too based on caste-based, religion-based reservations are truly an exploitative nature. Reservation should be purely based on, one's background, one's capabilities or one's disabilities. Yes, disabled people should be given reservations. Ex-servicemen, they have to given reservation because they have served our nation, and they also need to be provided reservation. And yes, women also now, because of reservation, they are able to take part in the employment and educational opportunities. So they should be given reservation until the 50% of the women are getting at least to a maximum of 100%, so that they also come. And at a certain level, there is no need of reservation because already now most of the women are educated, and still we need to continue until the last woman gets educated. So these reservations have to be there to safeguard the ones who did not get the opportunity. But that should not happen with other grounds like caste-based reservations. Today, India, we have the reservations prevalent only based on caste. So that is what making, highly abusive. And again, this lot of caste politics will come. Again, they will come into power. They are everywhere and they try to dominate. And this discrimination continues for centuries together. There is no end to the discrimination because they try to dominate or they try to discriminate on this basis. So reservation should not be based on caste or creed or sect. It should be based on their abilities. It should be based on the opportunities, the kind of socioeconomic status they are living, so that they are also made inclusive in the society. In a similar way, as we've seen, this research also systematically rejecting qualitative research limits research questions that can help minoritized populations, said Princeton. Sometimes research requires a different perspective with different methodologies. Qualitative research can also unearth new psychological experiences and construct in ways that qualitative methods do not. Smith been noted. Luckily, change is afoot. In the past 10 years, the content of psych articles, which includes all APA published journals and the English language hog-free journals that has methodologically indexed term qualitative, has quadrupled, said Rose Call, PhD, a social psychologist and publisher of journals at APA. More journals are referring specifically to qualitative methodology in their scope statements. APA also created numerous resources to help individuals who wish to engage in quality science. The Skoll noted, so these include the Essentials of Qualitative Methods series, an article of reporting standards for all qualitative, primary, qualitative, meta-analytic, and mixed methods research in psychology, and the peer-reviewed journal Qualitative Psychology, which started in 2014. In order to feature research that employs qualitative and mixed method designs, the journal was founded in partnership with the Society of Qualitative Inquiry in Psychology, a section of APA Division 5, Quantitative and Qualitative Methods, which had focused only on quantitative methods in the past. So Arnello has also noticed that teachers and researchers in higher education positions have become more critical of qualitative metrics, specifically quantitative critical race theory or quant-crit articles there are on rise. This is rapidly developing research approach that aims to both challenge and improve the use of statistical data in social research by applying the insights of critical race theory. The work of quant-crit rests on 5 key principles. Racism is at the center of scientific research. Numbers are not neutral. Categories are not natural. Data cannot speak for itself and instead requires voices and insight. Social justice and equity must be considered in research, and it is appearing more in the scholarship. I am still hoping that those perspectives translate into graduate program curricula in the next decade also, said Arnello. So we will stop here and we will look at various other trends. Maybe after this session or tomorrow. So we'll open it, the platform for any queries, questions. If you have, you can raise your hand or you can use chat box to reflect upon if you have any. The feedback form has been raised for the session 1. We request everyone to quickly fill up the feedback form. After filling up the feedback form, you can answer. Yeah, Mary ma'am.
Good evening, sir. I thank for giving me the opportunity, and Sri Holistic Health Foundation and Sri Research Center for Art, Science and Wellbeing for giving me this opportunity. Actually, I finished in UG Psychology, sir. For me, I learned a lot from this session, and I learned a lot the emerging trends in psychology. I noted down a lot of points. It is very informative session, sir. I gained a lot of knowledge. That's what I want to tell you, sir. Thanks once again for the opportunity given to me, sir. God bless you, sir.
Thank you, Mary.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Yes, ma'am.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar.
Feedback form is not visible, sir.
Maybe you need to access the feedback form through menu. It might got accidentally closed, or you need to update your Zoom client.
Okay.
From which device you are logging in?
I'm Realme.
No, I mean from mobile. Nah? So you need to swipe left, right, or top, down. You just check whether you are able to access the ports.
No.
It's always advised to log in from system or laptop. Or you need to update the Zoom app. You can just quickly log off and log in. And you also rename before you log in. Nah?
Okay, sir.
I think your name is right only, Arun.
Yes, yes. My name is here.
So you can just log off and log in quickly and try. We request everyone to quickly attend to the polls, which has been raised in the form of, feedback in the form of polls. If you have any questions, queries, suggestions, observations, clarifications, you can raise your hand. You can unmute yourself. Feel free to discuss or share. Okay, if there are no queries, quickly fill up the feedback form. We'll be closing now, and then we'll be inviting our next speaker. So we have with us our for our next session. Yeah, we have with us Dr. Aditi Singhal, a Guinness World Record holder, and is a Generation Next educationist. She is also an international maths and memory trainer, author, and a motivational speaker. She has, to her credit, 3 records in the Limca Book of Records. And for the memory and fastest calculation, she also has been awarded the best memory trainer by the India Book of Records. And she has been practicing Raja Yoga meditation since 2009. She is an active member of SPARK, Spiritual Applications and Research Center, a research wing of Brahma Kumaris. She is one of the experts of TV program for youth, Hum Honge Kamyab, where value-based solutions to youth relaxed problems are given, and she has been invited as a keynote speaker on numerous popular platforms like TEDx, Facebook, Radio 1, etc. And she has authored 6 best-selling books: How to Improve Communication, How to Become a Human Calculator, How to Memorize Anything, How to Be a Math Magician, The Ultimate Memory Handbook for Students, Crack the Code, Math Mysteries for All Ages. And she has also given various training programs in corporates like Tata Power Delhi Distribution Limited, Steel Authority of India, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation, NABARD, National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development, and Samsung Idea Cellular Company, and Mahanandi Coalfields, and in various schools and colleges like NSUT, JECRC, UPES, JSS Academy of Technical Education, GGSIU, and Delhi University colleges. And she has over 15 years of experience in training teachers and students on mathematics, concentration, memory, and soft skills. She has also conducted over 1,000 seminars and workshops nationally and internationally. And her mantra is add smart work to your hard work. So we welcome you, ma'am, for this wonderful session to the International Conference on Psychology. Now you can unmute yourself and start your presentation. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ravindra. Thank you so much for inviting me in this session. And today, a very interesting topic that we are going to discuss about is mysteries of mind, memory, and mathematics. All three M's are very close to my heart, and I really love to talk on them. So I would also like to extend a warm welcome to all the participants today who have joined through Zoom or YouTube. So let's start with a small story. In fact, before starting, I would request if any one of you, if you feel comfortable, because I would like this session to be very interactive. And I want if you can switch on your cameras. That's a request. Those who are comfortable and those who are not multitasking, they're just listening to this. If they can switch on their cameras, that would be great. Okay, I'm starting with a small incident, which I would like all of you to listen to that very carefully and reflect on it. Once there was a person who wanted to, who went into a hotel and asked the owner that I want to take a room in your hotel, but I want to choose a room of my own interest. So I want to see all the rooms available. So he offered ₹1,000 to him. So the owner, he asked his manager to take this person and show the rooms available. And this owner, taking these ₹1,000, he immediately went to the nearby restaurant where he has to clear his dues of ₹1,000. He gave that money to the owner of the restaurant, and which in turn, this restaurant owner, he immediately takes this ₹1,000 and he went to the vegetable seller and gave her this ₹1,000 to that vegetable seller to clear his dues of ₹1,000. And as soon as she gets ₹1,000, she went to the wholesaler from where she has purchased the vegetables, and obviously to clear her dues of ₹1,000. And this wholesaler, when he got this ₹1,000, he went to the same hotel from where this chain of events started, and he gave ₹1,000 as his dues to the owner of the hotel, because earlier he was not able to pay that. So, and then what happened, this person who was looking for the room, he came back to the owner and said, no, I didn't like any of the rooms, so I want my ₹1,000 back. So this hotel owner, he gave those ₹1,000 to that person and he went away. So the question to reflect here is, if you have followed the story carefully, so who is the person who became richer by a penny, by ₹1,000? Anybody? Because as we see, the ₹1,000 were given by that person who came to look for the room, and finally it took back, and nobody became richer by a penny, but all of them would clear their dues. So sometimes we have such mysteries in our life, which if you see, there's no loss or gain, but if you see them from different angle, many solutions are done. So today, when we talk about mystery, so I would like to share my presentation with you. I hope all of you are able to see. Can you show me a thumbs up or write in the chat box?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to start with an activity, which I would like all of you to participate in that. And if you can't switch on your cameras, at least you write in the chat box, which is the odd one out and why. Which is the odd one out and why. You may at least, you can think like this: first figure as A, then this is B, this is C, round figure is C, then blue figure is D, and the smallest figure is E. You may write your answers in the chat box telling me which is the odd one out. Think for a few seconds and then you may enter your answers. I hope chat is open for everyone. Okay, Anji is saying that the D1 because its color is blue. Okay, absolutely right. What others think about it? I want other participants also to please answer this. What according to you? Okay. Maria is saying that C, the middle one circle, because the shape is different. Absolutely right. You have the right reason to say that this is the odd one out. Anybody would like to go with A, B, or D? Oh, sorry, E. For any reason? Okay. Vivian is saying that B, because there is no outline. Absolutely right. Good observation. Santosh is going with D. Okay. Kaur Zebel is going with B. I think for the same reason, because it doesn't have a boundary. Anybody would like to go with A or E? You may go with E also, because this is the smallest in size, right? So you all are correct, whatever you are saying, that B doesn't have any outline. C, the circle, it is different in shape. D, it is different in color. And then E, because it is different in size. But I would like to go for the first one. According to me, A is the odd one out, because there's nothing odd in it. Because there's nothing odd in it. So wherever your attention goes, that becomes a reality for you, isn't it? So I'm not saying you are wrong. You all are right in your own way, because you are able to justify your answer. You're able to justify your answer. But if you have to find out the odd one out, I think A is the odd one out, because there is nothing odd in it. Rest have some peculiar thing about them, but A doesn't have. So that's why that is the odd one out. Anyway, all your answers are right. But most important thing to reflect from this activity is that we all think differently, and the flexibility should be there. What I choose, right? Because everyone thinks differently, everyone have their own choice. But the irony is, same is not possible every time in mathematics. I would like to take mathematics first, because in mathematics, you see, it's universal in nature. If I say 4 plus 5, that's 9. In India also, it will be 9. In Australia also, in America also, everywhere you go, 4 plus 5 will always be 9. It cannot be 9.01 or 8.9 or something else, right? And that is why sometimes mathematics is taken as considered as a dreaded subject. Students develop phobia for mathematics. It is very interesting for few, and it is mystery for few. And why this is mystery, I would like to show you one video for that. Please reflect on the video, and I hope you will find it very, very interesting.
I figure 75% to you, Panma, and 25% divided between the 5 of us. Yida, Crowbar, myself, Tom, and the baby. That makes 5% for each one of us.
Billy, you're cheating yourself. If there's 25% divided among the 5 of you, that's 14% apiece.
Oh, no, listen, Pa. I wouldn't cheat you. You know I wouldn't. Now, look here. I'll show you. Let me rub this out here. And now, 25 divided by 5 is 5. You see, 5 won't go into 2, will it? No. But 5 goes into 25 5 times, you see?
No, you're wrong, Billy. Now, I'm a pretty good mathematician. Now, 5 into 25... 5 won't go into 2, will it?
No.
But 5 goes into 5 once. Now, we didn't use the 2 before, so we bring it down here. Now, 5 into 20 goes 4 times. There you are. 5 into 25, 14.
No, look, Pa. Let me prove it to you now by multiplication. 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25.
Really, I'm surprised you're learning.
Huh?
I'm surprised that you're learning. Now I'll show you. 5 times 14 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5. 25. That's it.
No, look, Ma. Look, you're wrong there, because I'll prove it to you. We'll put down 5 14s here. 14, 14, 14. There. Now, Now, I'll prove to you by addition that 5 14s is not 25. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20.
21, 22, 23, 24, 25. There you are. Better brush up, Billy. I don't want to see you boys cheated.
So you saw that sometimes if we see all three of them were correct in their own way, but the clarity of concepts in mathematics is very, very important. Without clarity, it's not about that sometimes we feel, oh, maths is not my cup of tea. It's not like that. Actually, how they have understood it, if we see through this example, there's a lot more to understand in this example. And what it is that if given a chance, everybody can give their point of view and share what is right for them. The mathematical answer, it may be mathematically wrong, but the people explaining the things, it's not necessary, like we shouldn't consider them as wrong. The method may be wrong, but they are always right. So very important lesson that we understand from this example or from the concept of mathematics is that though in mathematics, especially in arithmetic, we will see 4 plus 5 is always 9, or if we see this 25 divided by 5 will always be 5. But if given a chance, people can justify their answers. So their methods mathematically may be wrong, but they have their own way of explaining. If we can just ask them, explain, and then we can help them to come to the right thing instead of just telling them you are wrong, and just do not allow their creativity to come out. That's why most of the students, they feel dreadful about this subject. Maths is not just about calculating. It is far more than just calculations. I would just like to share one example with you here. Simple mathematics. It's again considered something which is very, very confusing for students. Plus into minus is minus. Minus into plus is minus. Minus into minus is plus, plus into plus is plus. So sometimes, like in my childhood, maths was my favorite subject because there's always how and why to everything in mathematics. But I couldn't understand. I asked my teacher, ma'am, plus into minus is minus, then minus into plus should be plus. So she said, see, 3 into 5 is 15. Similarly, 5 into 3 is also 15. Commutative law. I understood. She gave me the reason. Okay, then I asked, if ma'am minus into minus is plus, then plus into plus should be minus. Do you all agree? It should be minus. So, but she said, I think you are not concentrating. You listen to me once again. She repeated the whole thing once, twice, thrice, but still the question was this, why plus into plus is plus? I couldn't understand it arithmetically, but anyway, with practice, it got into my brain and I could use the facts. But if we relate it, this mystery always remains a mystery for me, why plus into plus is plus. Unless when I started teaching and when I look at from a different angle, I could make out what this teaches us in our life. So plus into minus means things, plus means things which I should do, minus means things which I should not do. Plus into minus, things which I should do, and if I do not do, what will be the result? It will be minus, it will be negative. If I should devote my time properly with concentration on my project, and if I'm not doing that, definitely the result will be negative. Then second equation, minus into plus, things which I should not do, but I do. I spend too much time gossiping here and there, or I spend too much time surfing on internet, switching from one social media to the other. I shouldn't be doing this, but if I do, then the result will be what? Negative. Minus into minus, things which I should not do, and if I do not do, I shouldn't be angry on anyone, and I use peace. I do not show my anger to anyone. The result will be positive. And plus into plus, things which I should do, and if I do, I should give respect to everyone, and if I do give respect to everyone, the result can never be negative. It will always be positive. Will always be positive. So if we can teach children not just, it's about symbols, it's about not just about calculations, but if we can see what is hidden, what is mystery actually. Whenever there is a mystery, we see what is hidden truth inside. So we can connect it to various things and make things simpler for students and for ourselves. Now I would like all of you to please write in the chat box, what shape will you call this as? What shape would you call this as? You've never been taught about this shape, I think. I will keep on asking questions in between so that I can see you, at least mentally you are present with me. No? You cannot identify the shape? That's an irregular one. Okay, rectangle. Okay, you don't identify. Fine. Anyone else? Irregular shape, correct. Okay, it's something rectangular. Okay, let me tell you what shape is this. Okay, thought bubble. Okay, correct. It's a jug. Oh, wonderful. You know, this shape is hexagon. But you might not agree with me, because since our childhood we have been shown that hexagon looks like this. But according to the definition of the hexagon, any closed figure with 6 sides, it's hexagon. Now please count the sides: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it is a closed figure. Can we call it a hexagon? Though it's an irregular hexagon. But since our childhood, our teacher or in our books also, we have been taught hexagon like this only. So we cannot think beyond that. So this shape always seems a mystery to me. What is this? I can't identify. Although I have been taught that a closed figure with 6 sides is called a hexagon, but I cannot relate. That is the irony. We have been shown always hexagon like this. What is this? You might say this is a tick, but this is actually right angle. But in our classrooms, the right angle always seems like it is stagnant on the board. Otherwise, it might fall if we make a right angle like this. And then this is what? This is a triangle. And this is a, what students will say? They may say diamond. They will not call it a square. Because diamond is in this shape. Square means that it should have a flat base. But we teach the students, my triangle in the classroom, it will always be flat. It has a flat base. But when we give them congruency questions, then we put one triangle like this one, we put one triangle like this, and they are intersecting. And then we say, okay, see what property you can apply to make them congruent. Isn't it? That's why maths remains a mystery for students. They keep looking for from which year we can drop it, because we don't understand. So encourage students to think deeply about mathematics, understanding patterns. I would like to share one Ramanujan solution. Ramanujan, we all know, the great mathematician. In Journal of Indian Mathematical Society, Ramanujan once gave this equation to all the mathematicians over the country to solve this. You can see it's such a complicated equation. Under root of 1 plus then under root, then under root, then under root. There's so many, and dot, dot, dot. It continues. So I think it's difficult for everyone. So he gave this equation to solve, but nobody could solve it. And when he couldn't find the answer, he couldn't get the answer from anyone. So Ramanujan, in the next edition also, he sent the same question for the mathematicians. So they asked Ramanujan, they wrote to Ramanujan, please share what is the solution. We can't find the solution. So Ramanujan said, actually, the solution is 3. Then everybody asked, how? How you calculated as 3? The answer looks so simple, but the question is so complicated. So Ramanujan, as you all know, that you must have heard that he used to love playing with numbers. So he said, I created a question from the answer. I created this equation from 3. Taking 3 as the answer, I created the question. How? Let us all understand this. 3 can be written as under root of 9. I hope all of you agree. Now 9 can be further written as 1 plus 8. Now 8 can be further written as 2 into 4. Now 4 can be further written as under root of 16. 16 can be further written as 1 plus 15. Now can you see the pattern? Now 15 can be written as 3 times 5. 5 can be further written as under root of 25. 25 further can be written as 1 plus 24. 24 can be written as 4 into 6. 6 can be further written as under root of 36 and ... So you saw, from a simple number, such a complicated question is formed. So instead of asking children close-ended questions, okay, what will be the answer of this equation? Even if it is a simpler equation, definitely we are not going to give our students such difficult equation. Even if it's a simple equation, can we ask them questions? Can we ask them, or can we practice ourselves like this? Taking the answer, can we create a question? There can be multiple questions for the same answer, isn't it? 3 can be written in so many ways. So we can give them some condition, okay, using square roots, using these many operations, so that they can think deeply about mathematics. Sharing amazing facts about mathematics, I would like to share this wonderful thing. It will be very difficult to fold a normal paper more than 7 to 8 times. Have you ever tried that? You can try it today. Take a A4 size sheet of paper, fold it from the middle, okay, fold it equally. So what will become? The thickness of the paper will become double. Then fold it again, okay, completely into half. So the thickness will now become from double to it will become 4 times. Then again you fold it, it will become 8 times. Then again you fold it, it will become 16 times. So after such 23 folds, actually A4 size paper cannot be folded more than 7 to 8 times. But let's say it's a huge paper. So according to that calculation, according to the thickness of the paper, if you see 0.5 mm as the thickness of paper, then after 23 folds, the paper would be 1 kilometer thick. Can you just imagine? And after 27 folds, so if we have taken that, sorry, it is taken as 1/10 mm of the paper size, the thickness of the paper is taken as 0.1 mm. Okay, so 0.1 into 2 into 2 into 2, 27 times, it will be this much mm, which will be equal to around 13 kilometers, which will be more than the height of Mount Everest. So if you can manage to fold a paper into half, into half, into half repeatedly, then after 27 folds, it will be more than the height of Mount Everest. And it would take 30 folds to reach the equivalent of 100 kilometers above us. And can you imagine after 50 times how thick would the paper, resulting paper will become? The thickness will be 3/4 of the distance from the earth to the sun. And if you fold one more time, what will happen? The paper will go across the sun. It will burn. Yes. So actually it is not possible to fold it so many times, but according to the mathematical calculation, if you continue doing that, so the thickness will go on increasing like that. So I would like to share this fact that Brittany Galvin from California, she created a record by folding a paper 12 times only. This is the folded paper which you can see. She took the toilet paper and very, very thin toilet paper, and she folded it 12 times. She managed to fold it 12 times, and that was the maximum record that was created. So let's say you are offered a job that lasts for 7 weeks and given 2 options to earn your salary. Okay, you are given a job for 7 weeks and 2 options to earn your salary. Please listen to the question carefully. Now I think you have an idea about that, and please answer in the chat box. The first option is take ₹100 for the first day, ₹200 for the second day, ₹300 for the third day, and so on. Each day you are paid ₹100 more than the day before. How is the deal? After 7 weeks, what will be the amount that you are getting, because every day 100 rupees is added to it. Option 2, take 1 paisa for the first day, 2 paisa for the second, 4 paisa for the third, 8 paisa for the fourth, and you are paid double the amount what you were paid the day before. But you started with 1 paisa for the first day. In the option 1, it is 100 rupees for the first day. Option 2, you are taking 1 paisa for the first day, then 2 paisa for the second, 4 paisa for the third, and in terms of paisa, it is doubling with each day. Which option would you choose? The choice is yours. What salary you want? Okay. Santosh is saying we'll go for second option. Okay. What others are saying? Thinking, trying to figure out. Anyone else? Okay, option A, fine. Fine, let's see. Option second, okay. Option A, okay. So, fine. Some of you are going with option 1, some of you are going with option 2. Let's see. Very nice. So, let's see. In option 1, what will be the amount? Okay, now option 2 is coming. It's exponential increase, very good. So if you keep on like this, so after 1 week, it will be 2,800. Then within 2 weeks, it will be this. So total after 7 weeks, it will be 1,22,500. And option 2, when you started with 1 paisa, in the first week, it will be 1 rupees 27 paisas. In the second week, it will be 162 rupees 56 paisa. But after 7 weeks, the total amount will be around 5.63, approximately trillion. So that's really the mystery behind it. And things sometimes seem something else, but they're actually something else. So we should explore mathematics more. It's really fun. We shouldn't call it a mystery, because sometimes for some, it remains a mystery. They feel that really maths is very difficult. It means something to solve, something to go deep into and think. Definitely, it's about thinking skills, but most importantly, if we say maths is fun and we can teach, we can learn it in a fun way, then it will really become very interesting instead of being a mystery. And when I talk about these many trillions, that reminds me that brain has immense potential. It has around 1 trillion cells. And brain storage capacity is around 100 trillion bits. In short, we can understand by this data that our brain, each one of us our brain has the potential to store information, as much information as there is in 500 encyclopedias. So much of information can be stored in each of our brain, but we really find it difficult to even remember little things, right? And there always remains a mystery. If I ask you, what did you have in dinner last Wednesday? You might have to think. Okay, if I ask you last Monday evening, where were you? Today is Tuesday. Okay, let me ask you last Saturday, where were you? What were you doing in the evening? You might have to make an effort, but if I ask you, do you remember the first day on your job or the interview that you gave? The first day when you took your bike to the nearby place with your friend behind you? Who was sitting behind you? And how was your experience? Shayad aapko yaad hoga, right? So brain has immense potential to hold on memories, but things which we want to remember, we are not able to remember. Things which we want to forget, we are not able to forget. That's a mystery, right? Isn't it? So the first thing that is important to tap the potential of brain is the power of concentration. Concentration is a skill, a very, very important skill. And what do you feel? How's your concentration these days? It's going down. It's going up. It's improving. Going down. What would you say? How's your concentration these days? Most of the people today complained about this skill. That yes, our concentration, our memory power is fading. But I would like to ask you, when we watch movies, when we watch serials, when we watch cricket match, watch Netflix and play video games, all these things, are we able to concentrate as compared to when we study something? Yes. So the key to concentration is interest. It's not about that a concentration is going down, it's about the interest. When we look for movies or match or games or Netflix, when we are wherever we are interested, we are able to concentrate. So the key is interest, right? So we have to understand what is a language of mind, because most of the students, most of us, we complained that मन नहीं लगता, मन नहीं कर रहा ये करने का, पढ़ाई में मन नहीं लगता. We often complain like that. So मन क्या है? मन की भाषा क्या है? What is the language of mind? Because let's say if I have to communicate with you, I have to speak a language which you understand. Let's say I start talking in Japanese and none of you knows this language, then there's no point of communication, right? In the same way, we must understand what is the language of my mind. If I want my mind to concentrate, if I want my mind not to wander here and there, because, you know, mind is again very powerful. It has the power, like you might be sitting with some other person, but your mind is going to London, America, no distance bar. It can go anywhere in a second. No time bar. It can go in the past 10 years back. It can go in future. So it's very powerful. It has immense power. So if I want my mind not to wander and it stays with me, so that whatever I am listening, what I am learning, it goes with me, my concentration is there, I must talk to my mind in a language which mind understands. Now let's say, if I love watching movies, so what is there in a movie that keeps me glued to the movie? So what is the language of mind? The language of mind is images, moving images, action, colors, music, and emotions. That's why sometimes while watching a movie, we sometimes have tears in our eyes, isn't it? We start feeling that connection with the character of the movie. We feel as if the same thing is happening with me. If the heroine is getting married, we sometimes feel those emotions and we feel as if my marriage is going on. I'm reminded of my own marriage, or something bad happens in the movie, then also we sometimes start connecting that and we start feeling those emotions. And that's why we feel happy, we feel sad with whatever is happening, because my mind is focused, my mind is concentrating. Do you have to command your mind, please concentrate, please remember the story of the movie, I have to share it with my friends? No, automatically, without making an effort, you're concentrating and you are absorbing everything, as compared to when you do studies, right? Because in the movie, everything, whatever there we are seeing, that is the language of mind, and mind don't have to make an effort. Unless the mind is emotionally connected to something else. If other emotion is stronger than the emotion of the movie, then the mind may wander. Otherwise, the movie will easily capture the concentration. Right? So that's the language of mind. Now, how can I tap this language in my real life, in the movie of my life? How can I convert things into a movie? For example, I would like to give you an example. If somebody has to memorize something, so if you have to memorize the country name is Bulgaria and the capital is Sofia. The country is Egypt and the capital is Cairo. The country is Dominica and the capital is Caracas. The country is Barbados and the capital is Bridgetown. And if I continue with that, then you might feel that it's very difficult to remember all these. So, but I say language of mind, see it. You will say, I've never been to Bulgaria. How will I see that? So, how memory gets fixed, we have to imagine, but there's no image of Bulgaria. If I say Agra, you can think of Taj Mahal, but Bulgaria, you are not aware what it is famous for. So, what you can do to imagine that, we have to connect. We memorize things by connecting. Whatever is already there in my memory, already there in my memory bank, if I can connect something with the new information, I learn by making connections. I learn by making associations. So my brain registers information by making connections. So if I can think of Bulgaria, bull gir gaya. Now bull gir gaya has an image. I can see. You might not have seen a bull falling down in your real life, but in your imagination, the moment I said bull gir gaya, you can see. कहाँ गिर गया? सोफिया, सोफे पे गिर गया. किसके सोफे पे? मेरे ड्राइंग रूम के सोफे पे. योर सोफा, योर फेवरेट सोफा, जिस पे आप रोज बैठते हैं, बुल गिर गया उस सोफे पर. Can you see that in your mind? Now you have attached an emotion to it, a funny emotion. You have attached image and action, and most important, you have connected it to yourself. That's why I don't think so. Those who are actually listening to this will never forget that the capital of Bulgaria is Sofia, because the moment you will think of Bulgaria, the image what will come, Bul gir gaya. Kahan gir gaya? Sofia pe gir gaya. Sofia. Sofia will come to your mind. And most importantly, the confusion will also be not there, because you have connected both the things, the country and the capital, together. So when we understand this mystery of memory, how we can connect the science of making connections in our brain, how we can hold memories. Why is it that I may recall something that has happened 20 years before? I can recall it as if it is happening live in front of me. And things which have happened just last week, I cannot recall, because things with which I am emotionally connected, I can recall them so fast with so clear visualization, so clear memory, that as if it is happening now, because of the emotions attached to it, whether a positive emotion or a negative emotion. Do you agree? Do you agree? Because the birthday in your childhood, you might remember it so well today, but last year birthday, you might not even recall what I did if you have not celebrated it that way, right? So with whatever the emotions are connected. So if I can emotionally connect with the information, I can visualize it, I can associate it with some prior information, then it becomes easy for me to register that information. And sometimes people feel that as we age, our memory fades. No doubt. Because as we age, we stop using our memory. I hope you can all relate with it. If you have seen that time when there was no, like, obviously you must have seen, when there were not mobiles, and you were able to, your memory was so good that you could recall, you have memorized all the telephone numbers of your neighbors, friends, relatives, their anniversaries, birthdays. But now you don't remember even the four telephone numbers of your own home, of your children, of your siblings, of family members, right? Why you are not able? Because you are not using your memory power. So use it or lose it. If you are not using it, you are actually losing it. So it's not about aging. Definitely, when you stop using it for decision making, you are not using your thinking skills that much for some constructive ways, in some constructive way, for some production. So you are losing the neurons of your brain. And if you continue doing some mathematics puzzles, if you continue to exercise your neurons, the brain cells, you can keep them healthier even at the age of 80, right? It's just like physical health. If you continue to exercise, you can be healthy at an older age also. And someone who don't exercise at the age of 10 also, they can be couch potatoes, right? So it's all about using your memory power. And then sometimes I would like to, in fact, share this also. Wherever my attention goes, sometimes we use these skills, whether it be mathematics, memory, but we see that sometimes we are not able to recall at the right time. Though, like for example, while giving an interview or while appearing for an exam, we have prepared right things at the right, all the things I have prepared, done my preparation well. At night, I was able to recall. Just before the exam, I revised so many things I was able to recall. But when we go into the examination hall, especially it happens with students, when they go in the examination hall, the heartbeat becomes fast. Something started happening in the stomach. The memory become blank, and they're not able to perform well. When they come out of the examination hall, what happens? They're the first to answer. So what is the mystery behind that? What actually happens? Because when a student enters the examination hall, we all have experienced this sometime or the other in our life. When we enter the examination hall, what are the thoughts that are coming in our mind? Maybe the question paper comes out of the syllabus, or if it's so lengthy, if I not be able to complete it on time, if my friend gets could do it better than me, if I forget, if that teacher would come, so many thoughts, negative thoughts of failure. We start seeing ourselves as failing in exams. So what happens with that? Wherever my attention goes, energy flows. If I start looking myself as a failure, if I start looking myself as not performing well in the exam, all my energy flow towards that. And wherever my energy flows, life starts growing. That means that starts manifesting in my real life. When the child enters, the heartbeat is beating fast. He's not a heart patient. He doesn't have any problem in his nervous system, but he's trembling. Why? Because what he's thinking in the mind, that is impacting his body. Man ka tan par asar hota hai, right? And then on the performance also, whatever thoughts are coming in the mind, they are impacting the brain. Brain is the master organ of the body. It starts stimulating, or it starts secreting those kinds of hormones which are enabling you to do that. And here I would like to share with you one video. Our thoughts affect our vibrations. How thoughts impact our vibrations? Just watch this video.
Is energy. Everything we can see, hear, touch, taste, and smell is made of different wavelengths vibrating at different frequencies. Our brain is like a translator that has the ability to interpret these frequencies into what we perceive to be our physical reality. So we interpret an energy cluster as a chair or a tree or another person. We perceive them as physical or solid, but break them down to their smallest particles and they're all just energy. There are non-physical energies as well, of course. Our thoughts, for example, are just different vibrations. Every time you think a thought, you send out that thought's specific vibration. If a thought makes you feel good, if it's a positive thought, it's vibrating at a higher frequency. If a thought makes you feel bad, if it's a negative thought, it's vibrating at a lower frequency. So, I hate you has a much lower frequency than I love you, for example. The more focus you give to a thought, the more thoughts of the same vibration will join it.
The last line is very, very important. The more focus you give to a particular thought, the more of similar frequency you are going to attract. You just heard in the video that when you create a positive thought, that it is, I love you. No, so it has a different frequency. It's vibrating at a higher frequency as compared to I hate you. That has negative energy. It's vibrating at a lower frequency. So when you create a thought, you start attracting thoughts of similar frequencies. So here I would like to relate very, very important thing. Positive thoughts, they vibrate at high frequency, whereas negative thoughts, they vibrate at low frequency. That has been scientifically proven now. Okay, so if I can always create positive thoughts, I can design my destiny. Okay, sometimes we don't understand why this is happening with me. That remains a mystery. In spite of my working so hard, I'm not getting results. Right? Why? Because we are continuously creating negative thoughts. We are thinking negative. I just give you an example. Let's say if I create a positive thought, oh yes, I can do it. The moment I create this thought, what quality of thought is this? Definitely positive, but it has the content of confidence. So high self-esteem. So what it will do, this is vibrating at a higher frequency, and all the other energies which are vibrating at that frequency, like happiness, confidence, strength, power, capability to do something, right? All these I will start attracting towards me, and that will help me to give good performance. As compared to when I create a negative thought, I can't do this. This is beyond my potential. The moment I say this is what kind of thought? Fear or less confidence, low self-esteem. Now, the moment I create this thought, the energies of similar frequency I start attracting. That can be helplessness. What should I do? I can't do this. So the fear of the energy of fear, doubt. And as I start accumulating, I start attracting, I start feeling more, I start feeling weaker. Okay, I start feeling less confident. And then it really reinforces the fact I can't do this. I can't do this. I knew I can't do this. And that will definitely be reflected in the performance. So if I can consciously create positive thought. Now, what is the source of my thoughts? An experiment was conducted on that. There were twin sisters, and this experiment was conducted where one sister was given a text to read, which has very positive words: confident, power, control, good, attitude. All these positive words were there. Though that text has nothing to do with that girl, but it was something else and not connected with her personal life, but it was a text consisting of positive words. And on the other hand, her sister, twin sister, was given some text which contains words like low, afraid, miserable, ashamed, depressed, all these kinds of negative thoughts. Okay, negative words. After that, after they read that, their brains were monitored, and they found that the first sister was given to read the positive text. In her brain, we all have that hormone called serotonin, the happy hormone, the mood hormone. Okay, so that hormone started secreting more. The production of that hormone increased, and in the second sister's brain, the production of that hormone started decreasing than the normal secretion also. And then they found, they studied different things in both the sisters, their responses for shopping, their responses while interacting with other people, and they found opposite results, though their likes and dislikes were almost same. So from this study, they found whatever we read, whatever we see, whatever information that we take through our sensory organs, that have impact on our thoughts, that kind of thoughts we create, and that have an impact on our behavior also, on our mood also, and on our body also. So sensory inputs, what are the source of our thoughts? The kind of thoughts that we create. One is the information that we take in. Then second is our belief systems. If I believe I am not good at maths, definitely whenever I will look at the thought will come, I can't do this. If I believe that if the cat has crossed my path, it is bad for me. So I will start creating that thought, oh, it's very bad thing that has happened. But if I change the belief system, the thought will come according to my belief system. Then according to the past memories also, your past experiences also. And the fourth kind of thoughts are the thoughts of creativity. The thoughts of creativity that we can create with our willpower. We can create consciously positive thoughts. Okay, and why we are talking so much on thoughts? Because it's the mysteries of mind we have to understand. Mind is very, very powerful. ये घोड़ा नहीं है, बंदर नहीं है, ये हमने छोड़ दिया है इसको. That's why we feel it's a monkey. It keeps jumping from one place to another because we have not given training to the mind, and we were not aware of the power of our own thoughts. Dr. Emoto, the Japanese scientist, he conducted an experiment, a lot of experiments with water. What is the impact of our thoughts, words, and feelings on water? And he conducted an experiment. I would like to share that experiment that he took 3 beakers, and in those 3 beakers, he put equal amount of rice and water. And to the first beaker, he said, thank you. To the second beaker, he said, you are an idiot. And to the third beaker, he just said nothing. He just ignored the third beaker. And he did this continuously for 30 days. To the first beaker, to whom he used to say thank you, after 30 days, the fermentation, the aroma of fermentation started coming. That's a good sign. The second beaker, whom he used to say you are an idiot, the rice in that beaker, they start getting rotten. And the third beaker, whom he used to ignore, the rice start getting black into that. You can watch this video. If you write his name, Dr. Emoto, on YouTube, you can watch that video also where he conducted that experiment. So what I want to say is, why this change in 3 beakers? Although the rice and water were of the same quality and same quantity. But when you say thank you, what are the feelings? What are the thoughts? The thoughts are very pure and very positive, right? The feeling is very positive. So that feeling, it vibrates, and that frequency was positive, and the water molecules absorb the energy, and that's why the change in the rice. The second beaker, when we say somebody, you are an idiot, what kind of energy? It's negative. And when we ignore someone, then also it's negative. So the water absorbed that negativity, and that's why the rice in both the beakers, they turn black or they start getting rotten, right? So why I'm sharing this experiment with you, because whenever, all the time, our mind is creating thoughts, and science and research tells us that 90 to 95% of our thoughts are negative and waste thoughts. Just imagine these thoughts which we are creating ourselves, seeing the situation, seeing different people according to our belief system, according to our past experiences, and whatever thoughts we are creating, they are impacting first our body, because every thought has a feeling, and feeling get diffused. First it diffused in our body, and each cell is made up of 70 to 80% water. If that thing is happening to that rice in the beaker, the same thing is happening in my body if I'm continuously thinking negative. And if I think positive, I can change the result. So I am creating those thoughts. My thoughts impact my body, and then first they impact my body, then they impact my relationships also, because the energy I vibrate, people catch that energy. My relationships also, my situations also, and things around me. So meditation is actually consciously choosing to think spiritual or elevated thoughts. It's working on your belief systems, on your beliefs, what beliefs you are carrying since your childhood. We need to work on them so that we can correct our beliefs, and accordingly, the source of thoughts, because it depends on our past experiences. We cannot change our experiences, but we can, through meditation, we can create new good experiences. Okay, we can see them from a different angle. And there are 3 steps in meditation. One is visualization. What you want to become, what you want to see your life as, visualize that. Most of the time we make mistake at this step only. If I would say, if towards success there are 4 steps. The 3 steps are definitely of hard work, smart work, whatever you are doing, you have to perform, you have to learn the skills. But if you visualize positively, 1 step, success will come towards you. But if you visualize negative, you start attracting negative energy towards yourself, and you will, after walking 3 steps, you will move 2 steps. So you will move 1 step back. That means you will be away from your goal. So visualization is very important. If through meditation, you can check the traffic of your mind, if you can give direction to your thoughts towards the positive side and visualize what you want. Because as we see, we just saw in the example, when child enters the examination hall, what he starts seeing himself as, getting failure, and he's not performing well. So he starts visualizing this in spite of doing all the efforts for his studies. So instead of that, if you start visualizing, I'm performing well, I'm writing my exam with confidence, I'm answering every question, I'm so focused. So when we visualize, the second step is realize. Try to feel those emotions, and then what will happen? It will actualize. Actually, you will start, your brain will start programming your mind. You know, that's the science of visualization. What is the science of visualization? I just give you a small example. Has it ever happened with you? You are sitting just like that, and you are reminded of some old memory, some bad memory, and you started thinking about it, and you started feeling those same emotions of anger, of helplessness, of hatred, what has happened in that memory, that bad memory. You start feeling all that. Sometimes you start even crying. You start feeling bad for nothing. That has happened 10 years back, but still you are feeling those emotions. That's the sign. That's because your brain cannot differentiate. Your brain cannot differentiate what you are actually doing, or whether you are imagining or you are actually experiencing. अगर वो 10 साल पहले की भी बात है, but if you are imagining it, visualizing it with full emotions, your brain cannot understand this, that okay, this has happened 10 years back, it will start secreting those hormones or such neurotransmitters that will impact your emotions, and you start feeling that. So if you can create negative emotions, you can live your past today, can you create your beautiful future? We have that power. And it remains the mystery for us why we are not getting success. But if we understand the science of visualization, how my mind works, how it is connected to brain, brain is called a tathastu machine. Why this is called? Because whatever I create thoughts through my mind, brain absorb that. Brain takes the command and says tathastu, tathastu. It helps us to perform that in a better way, whether it is a negative thought or it is a positive thought. Okay, so we must learn this art of meditation, where this traffic control, how to control the traffic of your thoughts. The first step is relax, go inside, reflect what is going on, what thoughts are coming, check, choose and change. And then green light is recharge with that positive thought. And that is why we say that through Raj Yoga meditation, we can actually give direction, positive direction to our thoughts, make our beliefs, which are actually aligned with my own spiritual values. And when we understand all that, we can empower ourselves and consciously create positive thoughts, and soon it becomes our sanskar also. Okay, so that's what I would like to share, wanted to share with you, the mystery of mathematics, memory, and mind. Out of these 3 M's, mind is the most mysterious one. And if we understand the mystery, if we understand how it works, we can really create our own destiny. Okay, so would you like to experience meditation for 1 minute? And after that, if you have any questions, you may ask. Sit back comfortable. Just focus on what thoughts I'm giving you. Om Shanti. Today, I realized my thoughts are my creation. Whatever is happening outside, that is not in my control. But one thing that is in my control is what I create, what I choose to create, what kind of thoughts I create. That is my choice. Because my thoughts create feelings that I experience. And those feelings, they impact my body, my work, my relationships, my situations. My destiny is in my hand. So today, I understand everything, why things are happening the way they are happening, because I'm attracting those things. Now, if I can really make myself positive, positive means create positive thoughts, I can attract positivity and power. Let me use my power to choose the right one. Thank you, God, for giving me this knowledge, for empowering me. Let me explore myself more in the coming time. Om Shanti.
अभी इनके मैक्स के अलावा कुछ करायो तब हैं? कैसे होगा?
So if any questions, yes, Miss Mary, you want to ask something?
Good night, ma'am. I thank Dr. Ravindra sir and Sri Holistic Health Foundation for giving me the opportunity to express my opinion. Actually, the key point I liked is you should keep positive thoughts. that I've really experienced. The day you start with positive thought, even if you are in a problem, you're going to solve a problem, and you know that problem is, you have to solve it next day. If you have positive thought, that problem will get solved in a simple way. I have personally experienced, ma'am. That is the takeaway I take from you, and I'm little not. Like the subject of Max, but that's why I took arts psychology. So, but the way you expressed is your justice to the topic is really wonderful. So, in the way you told, I also thought I should like Max again. So wonderful presentation, ma'am. God bless you, and I like a lot is spirituality also, because I believe in God more than I believe in myself. So you're some very mind-blowing. You made my day, ma'am. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Ravindra.
Thank you, ma'am. It was really a very insightful and enlightening session. In fact, many of us have, even since childhood, often we hear, even in academic community or while practicing also, we know that maths is as simple, as like any other subject. But always, there is a new notion that is happening in maths, and become so fearful, or a kind of phobia that has been developed students. It is not because of a maths as a subject, but the teachers who teach maths, they have horrified subject in such a way that students are running away from that subject. Maybe I am not judging the teachers; they are wonderful beings. But maybe, as your presentation also showed, the only way we are teaching maths, that may be the hurdle for everyone, as everyone doesn't, understand, comprehend in the same way. Not everyone thinks in the same way. Not everyone understands it in the same way. So we, as a teacher now, we have greater responsibility to ensure that we have to teach the way student understands. It's not that, the way we teach the student should understand. It should be student-centric. We should adapt or we should be flexible enough to teach the way student understand. Then definitely this problem will not be there. So I think maybe in coming days, all the teachers, if they think in that sense, then in the coming generations, I don't think there will be a child who is phobia of maths or fear of maths. So very well presented with, classical and examples. And it was very nice, insightful presentation. And participants, if you have any queries, observations, comments, feel free to unmute yourself and share. Hope, I know maths has been, you had a lot of memories with maths in your schools, colleges, especially those who are engineer science students. So you can also share, maybe if you still have some fear towards it, maybe we can demystify or try to address these issues. So let's take this opportunity quickly, one by one, if anyone has would like to share. There are few messages in the chat box.
Yeah. With your permission, good evening, madam. It was wonderful presentation. Actually, very honestly speaking, as Dr. Ravindra has said, I'm also having lots of, phobia regarding this math, as everybody who are from arts discipline will agree with me. But your way of presentation was very much very much what to say, very much, you have presented so nicely, so well, and explained the things so easily. I wish I could have get such type of nice teacher in my childhood. So my dislike towards this math could have been not there. So thank you so much for making this wonderful presentation, and given much importance on these three M's, particularly on mind, that what we actually think, and accordingly our thinking is responsible for our behavior. So it was really wonderful, and I really learned a lot from you. Thank you once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Myself, Paul. You have reminded me my childhood by talking with maths. My teacher's name was Bhagwan Das, but he was not like Bhagwan. He was opposite of it. And so I lost my total interest in mathematics. But the way you talked and you taught the things and explained about the mind and meditation and many things, I really appreciate everything, ma'am. You did well. Thank you. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else would like to share? We have few messages in chat box by Saida. This session is very interesting. And Dr. Acholi, beautiful PPT presentation. Thank you, ma'am. And Jamila, wonderful presentation, ma'am. And by Arun, I wish I had heard you during school days. Beautiful combination between maths and meditation. And by Santosh, thanks, madam, for sharing very good lecture on positive thoughts. Wonderful presentation. And by Sumita Mishra, wonderful session. Thank you so much. And there are other messages from our other participants saying wonderful session, excellent session. Thank you everyone for your response, feedback. It was indeed, and by Virendra Kumarji, excellent session, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I would also like to thank you. It was wonderful coming here, a wonderful experience, sharing these things which are very close to my heart. I'm very passionate about sharing, and you also, what I saw the response from you, you also very passionately attended it with full attention. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Ravindra, for inviting me. Thank you. Good night. Om Shanti.
Thank you, ma'am. We were, when Sumalata Didi was mentioning about you, I thought you would come with a different presentation. I was expecting more on, learning maths. So, but, the way you presented in a different context. Of course, whenever we have our Brahma Kumari family, someone is coming, definitely there is spiritual aspect that is there. But, more looking at your profile and other things, I thought we would be having more. But you offered a perfect blend of spirituality and maths. So we should really appreciate you, and the credit goes to you. And thank you very much. And everyone is appreciating. And we wish you all the success, ma'am, and look forward for more sessions in future. And God bless you, and with you more opportunities in your life ahead, in your future endeavors. Look forward for more sessions on the future.
Thank you so much for your divine blessings and good wishes. Thank you.
Thank you. So friends, quickly fill up the feedback form. Hope you all have enjoyed this wonderful session.
Yes, good book.
The feedback form has been raised in the form of polls. I request everyone to fill up the feedback form.
Feedback form poster.
It has been shared, ma'am, in the form of polls. There is no link for that. You can see the poll window that has popped up. You can see polls quizzes in that.
কই রে বাবা এখানে তো
Those who are unable to see, they can just log out and log in quickly so that you can fill. Maybe you need to access the polls from the poll menu if it has been accidentally closed. You can leave and rejoin again immediately. That will also solve the problem. If you are joining from web browser, there might be certain issues. So we request you to join through Zoom app. That will provide more functionality, more features. And even if that doesn't work, then you need to update your Zoom app to the latest version, whichever your device supports. So while you are filling up the feedback form, so anyone who have registered today, willing to present, if you have completed all the formalities, you can raise your hand or you can share your details in chat box. Those who have completed formalities for presentation. Okay. So we will look at the trends as we have some time left. We'll also cover this. Quickly fill up the feedback form. So looking at the trends, so EDI roles for psychologists are expanding. The world is looking for leadership around equity, diversity, and inclusion, and psychologists are stepping up. After the social justice protests of 2020, many universities, business, and nonprofits were shaken out of certain complacency around equity, diversity, and inclusion, EDI. In short, this shift in focus has led to the spread of depending of equity, diversity, and inclusion roles that psychologists are increasingly stepping into. In fact, many have been doing this work for years, but are finding the opportunities have expanded around. 2 years ago, the short-term requests diminished and the long-term requests ramped up, said Kumia Shorter Gooden, PhD, a clinical community psychologist who runs a Washington, D.C.-based EDI consulting business. I experienced a 5-fold increase in requests for services. Though a psychology background is not required for doing EDI work, psychologists are well trained in the sort of skills that are crucial, from doing assessments to synthesizing data to facilitating through conversations, as organizations look for far more comprehensive EDI overhauls than they have in the past. These skills are even more important. EDI is sometimes abbreviated as DEI or expanded into DIB, which adds belonging to the list of priorities, or DAI, which highlights accessibility, is not a new field, nor it is unusual to have psychologists talking or taking the lead. Robert Sellers, PhD, a social psychologist, who served as the Chief Diversity Officer at the University of Michigan, until August 2022, stepped into the university-wide role after chairing the psychology department, where he spent years focusing on recruiting psychologists from underrepresented backgrounds to the field. Anita Davis, PhD, a clinical community psychologist and the Vice President for the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion at Trinity College in Connecticut, had been doing EDI work for many years without diversity in her title. She never wanted a role with diversity title. She said, feeling it might limit the breadth and impact of work. But I realized with the formalization of these titles comes the ability to institutionalize the work, build infrastructure, and advocate for the resources, she said. So what has changed? Psychologists working in equity roles say is the depth and breadth of EDI work. Job posting statistics suggest that roles exclusively centered on EDI has proliferated. According to the statistics from the job listing site, indeed, EDI job openings rose from 140 jobs per million to 290 jobs per million between September 2019 and September 2030, a 56.3% increase. The work is found in both corporate settings and academia, as per Indeed Career Guide 2022. Certainly, after 2020, the call-in and call-out of addressing issues of anti-Black racism really spurred a lot of universities to take a second look at their EDI efforts and say, how are our efforts really changing the conditions that Black students find themselves in, said psychologist Annalise Singh, PhD, the Chief Diversity Officer at Tulane University. Some universities have also been moving towards different models of EDI planning. For instance, instead of handing down goals from a certain administrative committee, the University of Michigan developed its 5-year EDI plan by flipping the process, asking every administrative unit to create a personalized plan, yielding 2,800 separate action items, Sellers said. The university also developed a centralized plan to tackle projects that could be handled at only the university level, such as training. At the time, he said this was an unusual tack, but doing the planning from the bottom up helped ensure process was more relevant to everyone and gave individual departments a greater sense of responsibility over the outcomes, Sellers said. More and more universities are now doing a more distributed approach to planning. He said, but why? I would say we were among the first. So psychologists are also increasing, finding work in new corners. Yuma Tomes, PhD and educational psychologist, spent 20 years working in the way up the academic ladder before joining the Phillips Collection, an art museum in Washington, D.C. As its chair of the AI, he now does internal workshops and communications, consults with the museum board about issues of diversity, and oversees the museum's internship and fellow programs to ensure participants come from a variety of backgrounds. I didn't know Renoir from Rembrandt, but I knew that I understood the AI work. Tom said, it is unusual for a museum to have a full-time position devoted to this work. He said, though some integrated EDI with part-time staff or outside consultants, it is an area to watch for more growth, he said. So the way Tom's role is positioned within the organization also represents a positive trend for effective EDI work. Instead of working in an isolated team, tasked with its own agenda, his work is integrated into overall structure. DEI is interconnected to every single department that we have, he said. We influence finance, we influence curation, we influence conservation, we influence HR, we influence the director's office. It is imperative for DEAI work to be carried throughout every department to become institutionalized and systematic. For Amber Hewitt, PhD, the path to EDI work wound from counseling psychology to an APA congressional fellowship to health advocacy to the government of the District of Columbia, where she was appointed by Mayor Muriel Bowser to the brand new role of Chief Equity Officer in 2021. Counseling psychology emphasizes how humans interact with systems, Hewitt said, and government is one of those systems. Much of Hewitt's work revolves around involving communities in decisions about policy, including running public engagement forums to get residents' input on Washington, D.C.'s first ever racial equity action plan. Political change can affect the EDI field directly. Kizzy Parks, PhD, an industrial organizational psychologist and head of K Parks Consulting in Florida, consults mostly for federal government agencies. The federal government presidential administrations have their own priorities that set the tone for the kind of services consultants need to provide, Parks said. So shifts happen with everyday election, but the change from the Trump administration to the Biden administration was particularly stark. She noted in September 2020, then President Donald Trump issued an executive order banning diversity training deemed divisive. During this time, Parks said most of the work her company did for the federal government focused on soft skills training, leadership training, or meeting the requirements of a certain law or regulation. The actual requests for diversity and inclusion training were quite low or non-existent, as she said. The Biden administration reversed that executive order and made diversity and equity a priority. The result, Park said, has been a bevy of requests ranging from analytics to training. The work also requires having one's finger on the pulse of federal regulations. For instance, Parks said in August 2022, NASA held its first vendor equity forum geared towards encouraging LGBTQ plus owned business to work with the federal agency. This move might indicate that in the future, the federal government will require a certain proportion of contractors to hold this certification, just as government currently sets aside work for women-owned and veteran-owned business. It opens up more options as far as the type of work to go after, as well as the type of companies to partner with, Park said. So a psychology background can be a boon for EDI work, which requires both skills and analytical skills. There are a lot of transferable skills that psychologists have in our training, Hewitt said. These include critical thinking and understanding of human behavior and cognition, and qualitative research training. Hewitt said the latter of which is helpful when synthesizing themes from public engagement forums. Psychologists also have valuable training in qualitative and quantitative research methods, from developing assessments to collecting data to analyzing and interpreting data. In shorter, Gooden said, on the soft skills side, EDI work often involves facilitating groups, managing conflict, and making space for tough conversations. Shorter, Gooden said, all skills that many clinical and community psychologists have spent years cultivating. So the day-to-day of an EDI job depends on the organization. An academic chief diversity officer may work to create big picture programs and initiatives. Consulting with upper administration as well as departments across the university. EDI is at a college or university is highly collaborative. Recruiting diverse talent requires working with human staff. For example, This type of collaboration has increased as academia begins to view EDI more comprehensively. Davis said, we moved from focusing predominantly on students to students and faculty to now being mindful of our staff. She said, all members of our community and their experiences matter. So consulting for non-profits can involve assessment and interventions similar to those in academia and said shorter Gooden, which has worked in both spheres. So psychologists, by virtue of their backgrounds, can bring a particular flavor of mental health awareness to EDI network. Tomes helps curators at the Phillips Collection consider how art that deals with challenging topics might affect museum visitors. Even as EDI work becomes more prevalent, people in this field are coping up with world-size backslash. The past couple of years have brought increased attention to issues of equity and diversity. Sellers said that often in extremely polarizing ways, this can be stressful for people doing the work. Our DEI leads are often on the front lines. People working in EDI also experience individual pushback. Change is difficult, shorter, good and said. Even those who hire an EDI consultant may back at having the status quo challenge. Turnover is high. Nickerson agreed at a mid and upper administrative level. It's very difficult for people to do things that they see need to be done without there being some grumbling or negative repercussions. The psychologist background is helpful for understanding these dynamics and coping with them, Sellers said. At the University of Michigan, he worked to ensure DEI leads and social support and opportunities for well-being and attempted to set realistic expectations for the change. So how do we help individuals navigate in a complicated world where oppression exists? So let's not just be downstream fishing out people who have been pushed into the water. Let's go upstream and see what's going on and change those conditions. So with this, we shall conclude it here, and tomorrow we will see few more trends. So with this, we shall conclude it here. If you have any queries, clarifications, you can feel free to raise your hand or ask. There are no queries, then we shall conclude it for the day. And those who are willing to make presentations, register yourself and complete all the formalities. So thank you all, everyone, for joining us. See you all tomorrow, the same time. Take care. Good night.